Hey, you guys, it's Eye to Side, and we are back, and we've still got Fat Jimmy with us. It's a Fat Jimmy centric stream today. And one of the things that we were kind of talking about earlier was about the triad of evil right now, as we'll call it, which is battle helpers, bots, and scholars. Just let's just start things off here. My view is in wild, all good. In modern, I have no problem whatsoever with scholars. And obviously, bots and battle helpers shouldn't be in modern, but scholars, I can appreciate a good scholar who devotes their time with their organic brain to playing, even if it's multiple accounts that they all bring into, the top of the leaderboard. I've got no problem with scholars. How do you feel about those three systems there, Jimmy?
Man, scholars are that's always been touted as like a positive. I don't
Yeah,
understand the negativity towards scholars. It's like you're
absolutely.
giving someone opportunity, here's someone who's a good player, here's a max deck, you know. Go nuts. Like I don't understand what you're loaning out. That's like having a jockey ride a horse.
Yep.
The owner of the horse doesn't race it in the freaking Kentucky Derby. You hire a jockey to do it who knows how to ride the thing. It's like that. And shoot, my scholar Hyde, if he's watching, shout out to Hyde. He's
Your scholar is
badass.
Hyde, who we see in Discord sometimes. That's Hyde is your scholar?
Yep, Hyde 20, man. He does a
Nice.
lot of tournaments for me. He does a lot of ranks. Um, I play ranked too. There's times I'm so busy working I don't get to play, for several days or a week.
Yep.
And then there's times where he's doing school and I'll jump in. I we have a weird situation. A lot of scholars just play exclusively. Like I like to play too, so we kind of split it up a little bit. Um, Past couple weeks to a month, maybe a little more, he's been playing a lot heavier than me because I've just been super busy in real world stuff too. It's kind of why I haven't been in in Discord as much lately. But I've become friends with him over the past like 2 years or whatever that he's been playing with me, and we talk about life, we talk about stuff. We're actually good friends at this point and hope to meet someday. But it's I don't get how people call it an exploit or think there's anything
Yeah.
negative at all about having a scholar. You're giving someone else access to your account and they play it instead of you. So there's a human playing that account, they're earning. I don't see the problem with scholars at all.
I agree. And to me it's also just like that thing, like, what do you expect to do? Never face a good player? Like, there's a difference to me between, like, you're facing another human versus you're facing a robot that's running 1,000 calculations before it submits an optimal team based on an algorithm, you know? Like, at least
Right.
this way it's
Mm-hmm.
like flesh and blood against flesh and blood. If you're better than I am, you're better than I am. Like, if I were to go into a bike race against Louis Armstrong, he's the guy that only had one testicle, and like, am I talking about the right guy? Or all right, maybe I'm dating
I think of a
myself.
trumpet player when I hear Louis Armstrong.
Okay, all right, so maybe it's not him, but if I was to go into a swimming race with Mark Tewksbury or something like that, because I'm a swimmer, if I were to go and swim against Mark Tewksbury, I don't expect to win, but at least I'm facing another
Mm-hmm.
human, not like a boat, like I'm not swimming
Right,
against a
right, right.
boat, which is like the
Yeah,
equivalent. Or Kasparov, I
yeah.
think his name is, with chess, who, like, grandmaster chess player can't beat a computer who's making these optimal moves based on an algorithm,
Right.
you
Mm-hmm.
know? So
Yep.
I don't see the problem at all with scholars. And I see some people saying, like, in other videos, oh, soon all the English speaking people and stuff like that, you'll all be at the bottom of champ and you'll have no hope to advance because the scholars are just so good. And to me, that's just like, hey, you know what? If I'm behind these scholars, I mean, that's my motivation to work harder. I know a human can do it, so
Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of those guys are really good.
Yeah.
Like the dude who did the that speed video for
Charles
you.
FTW. Charles FTW.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
godly in the
That
way
was
that he plays.
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
That's it. But he's that good at the game. Rule set thing. He's just like, I know exactly what cards. Here's how I could find them quickly without scrolling. But sorting by manic and ability, and just be like, do it. Here's a team in like seconds.
and
And man, I did that. I gotta say, I did that once. Well, a couple times. But there was like once where I was late for entering a tournament, and I had like 15 minutes. I was like, oh crap, and I just flying through as fast as I could, and I did like better than I ever did in
wow,
tournaments
it's like second
because
guessing yourself.
you're not overthinking.
Yeah,
You're just like, your knowledge of the game, if you happen to have it, just kind of kicks into automatic pilot. And yeah, I was like, I don't know, came up pretty high on that tournament. I was totally stoked.
Do you think that there's
But
do you think that there's bots and battle helpers right now in modern? Here's a controversial take. What do you think about that? Think they're
oh
working
yeah,
their
there's
way back
battle
in?
helpers. There that it's going on. I mean, there's
Yeah.
it's now known that there's a public battle helper being offered.
Hive Dash
You know,
Wizard or whatever like that, right? Is one of them that I've just seen
uh,
more recently.
I think it's through Xbot. I don't know if
Is
there's
it?
others and stuff. I haven't been super deep in this. I've seen some discussion and I've
Yeah.
talked to people. But yeah, there's definitely public batter helpers available. Um, it's going to get ugly. I think they're trying to take, I think some people know more about it on the back end than is publicly let on. You
Hmm.
know, there's definitely a lot more research and stuff that's happened behind the scenes and a lot more evidence than people realize or has been, said. And people like Dave McCoy's leading the charge
Yep.
and stuff, and it's not a freaking get out the torches and pitchforks. It's like, hey, buddy, we know you're doing this against terms of service. Stop.
So it's
You
interesting.
got
It's interesting you say against terms of service because, like, from what I was reading, I heard one of them defending themselves, the guy who did Hive Dash Wizard. He said, actually, developing the software itself that can do it isn't against the terms of service. It's when you
hmm
use that software that it becomes against the terms of service. So we're just providing
yeah.
for you the tools, and should you so desire to use them, then that's when you're actually breaking the TOS, right? So they're
Well,
kind of
who's
using
got to?
that.
Well, not really, because yeah, it's not illegal to against terms of service to design the software, but when you're giving a player the ability to call the blockchain and actually get the information from a live battle, that's when you're violating terms of service. And if your battle helper has to have that step, otherwise it's useless, right?
I can see it, but is it like this comes down to, like, is it the gun that's bad, or is it the person that's shooting someone with the gun that's bad? One of them is just a tool. It's how you use the tool, right? So, and I think that that's kind of like that gray area that the battle helper providers are saying. I know that that was his justification, at least, on doing it.
No, I'm gonna disagree with that completely because those guys have to offer the service that again allows you to do it. Like um, like Xbot, for example, or when bots got banned from and battle helpers got banned from modern, they turned off that service on their website. There was a
Yep.
point where you could use it for modern or for wild, so they had to turn it off and to comply with terms of service. If people are able to use their program or their software, their bot or battle helper in modern, that means they're allowing it on the back end. They have that ability. The I don't know, the pathway to do that is open, and they're getting paid for
Oh
it.
yeah.
People they're paying for. So that's totally against it. It's not just like, oh, I'm just making this, and then people might, if they're using it, I don't know. It's like, no, you have to know because you're allowing that back end action to happen. So that's totally against terms of service.
Yep.
That's not just like someone making this and putting it out there and I don't know what people are doing. It's like, no, you are actually enabling it.
Well,
That's how it
you
works.
have to be if you're releasing it and allowing it to happen. You think that
Yeah, if you're getting paid for that service, you're enabling it completely. And that's completely against terms of service. So right now we got like Dave McCoy taking the high road and saying, "Hey, we know you're doing this." They know some players that are doing it too. They've got the evidence, and it's a matter of like, "Hey, we're going to give you a chance to just say stop, do the right thing, and stop, and we'll just kind of forget about it and move on." I'm paraphrasing there. I
yeah.
don't know if that's exactly what they're saying, but they don't want to, go after him and make a big scene and make a whole public thing and just bring a lot of negativity to the game. They'd rather just kind of settle it like adults and say, we know you're doing this, freaking stop. And if they don't, though, it's going to get ugly because they are going to go after them and they do have the evidence, and that's not going to be that's gonna be ugly. It's gonna drag in a lot of people. They're gonna start calling out people who are doing it. So
as
I
we
mean,
should
it's
be.
not that hard.
Yeah.
You know, I heard some of the tricks on the back end, and it's like, yeah, there are ways that they can figure out if people are using this.
So
And yeah,
So conversely, then, I mean, I don't think either of us are blockchain developers or anything like that. Do you think that Splinterlands can actually find a way to prevent this from happening? Like, if they blocked API access to only like approved IPs or approved sources, like said, you know what, Archmage, you've always played fair. Archmage, you can still have access to like our API. Xbot, you have not played fair. You're running this battle helper. We're going to restrict your access to the API. Do you think that they can do something like that to try and curb battle helpers or bots or whatever else is going on? Or do you think it's kind of like a just pretty much like there's nothing we can really do about it except for find out who's doing it and then like basically put public attention on them? There's no way to like actually stop it since it's like a public blockchain. But it is
that I
Splinterland
don't know.
software, you know.
Honestly, I don't know just on the technical
Yeah.
aspect of it. You know, I know at one point everything that happened, every battle was on the blockchain, and then I know when the servers were on fire in late 2020, they changed that. You know,
Oh,
so everything wasn't just on the blockchain right away. I think results were on the blockchain. They changed it where certain things happened on the servers and then certain things, not blockchain, and then the results and later things were put on the blockchain.
oh, so they
So
can
there was
still
kind
kind
of
of
like
do that.
yeah, there was kind of like a hybrid type of thing going on at one point. I don't know where it's at now, and I don't know enough about the back end. I'd imagine, they can block accounts.
Yeah.
You can do that. I don't want to see them. I think it would go against the whole crypto thing to take NFTs the way I think Axie was doing something like that. Just seizing people's accounts or seizing people's assets. That I don't think is right. But if they, prove someone is using the battle helper, and there are ways to prove it, then their account should be blocked. I think they should get the warning and be like, "Hey, we know you're doing it," and the blocking of an account is if you have like a 3, 4, 5 year account at this point,
Yeah.
all those soulbound cards and stuff.
That's what I was
That's
gonna
going to be
say.
a
The
yeah,
soulbound
that kind
cards
of
are.
hurts.
I can see you going in and taking the NFTs that you own and transferring them to another account and just starting over. But I mean, the fact that soulbounds exist now, and the fact that gladiator cards exist, now you've lost all that progress. And if you're a high level account, you rely on those
Hmm.
cards, right? So there's actually like a tangible penalty just to losing your account, even if you don't lose the cards that are within it. But I could also see them being like, hey, now you're
Hmm.
caught. Here's a 100-day cooldown on these cards too that are within this account. But if you do transfer
Yeah.
them out, you're like 100-day cooldown or something like that, or like, like a real penalty instead of it just being like, you're doing it. Please stop. Something like
Oh
that.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
it's just like there's going to be a precedent set for this, because we are kind of charting new territory, and we're going to see how it gets handled. There are people again, Dave being one of them, just trying to handle this in the with the path of least resistance and trying to get people to do the right thing, giving them a chance to do that. And then if they don't do that, that's when things are gonna get ugly, and we'll see how that happens. And then once this first wave is resolved, we'll see how harsh people, the penalty becomes. This is still new.
It would be
They're
nice too
figuring it out.
if there was a harsh penalty. It would be nice because that would actually act as like a deterrent for other people doing it. If the
Oh
penalty
yeah,
isn't enough, then I mean it's just like, oh, you know what? It's worth it for me to take the risk because within a week or two I'll be back to being able to do it, or I'll have my account back and there's not a real penalty or
oh yeah, no, you want people to be afraid. There
fearful.
definitely should be a penalty. Yeah, where
Yeah.
where if you mess up and you're going to violate, and you're stealing from the game basically
Yep.
when you
Stealing from the
cheat like that.
players, like
Cheating.
stealing from the players.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, you're
honestly,
stealing from all of us.
I'm a big time Magic card player. I got I think 7 or 8 of my Magic card buddies. I got them to come and I got them to play Splinterlands, and they liked Splinterlands the game, but this was just during like the big bot rush of Chaos Legion, what kind of came in. And what they didn't like is bots. That's something that like TCG players,
Hmm.
we hate cheating and we hate like automation like that. And I know that right away, as soon as the bots came up, 5 out of the 8 of us left. They said there's no way we're playing a game that's just all bots. One
Yep.
of them became a bot himself, And then my buddy Machine, he obviously stuck it out as long as he could before he also became a bot. I'm like the only one who, and I bought too. I bought in Wild when I run out of time. Like I'm not going to sacrifice taking my kids to the park, for instance, just so I can jam a few games when I'm at 50
Sure.
energy, for instance, right? So I've got my
Yeah.
Xbox set to go, and hey, if you're at like 40, I think I've got it for 44 energy on 6 hour time limits or something like that, then it'll play for me in Wild. And I've got 2 silver accounts that I also bought in Wild because my luck is so bad getting legendaries. Eventually, when they're unlocked, I'll be able to, transfer them to my main account so I can make up my deficits.
Mhm.
But I mean, in some ways, I can see the value in having the bots because there's a lot of like investor players out there who just can't play, but they like to invest in the game. They want to be able to play. But at the same time, bots
Sure.
have definitely crushed a lot of our player base. A lot of, like I said, my Magic playing buddies, they won't touch this game again because of the bots. I've tried to get them back into
Yeah,
modern. They're like, we gave it
my
our
wife was the
chance.
same way.
You know?
My wife was the same way, man. I got her playing the game, and she kind of got addicted to it. It was around that same time, and then she just got super frustrated in bronze because you're playing bots and getting crushed all the time. So it was, and she's not touched it again. It soured her to that experience, to the
That's
whole thing.
same
So
with my buddies. I told them,
it's
hey,
very real.
no
Yeah.
bots in modern. Come back, give it another chance. I'll delegate you cards. You guys don't have to pay anything. I've still got the keys to your old accounts and stuff like that. I'll give that all back to you. Like, come back and give it another try. They're like, yeah, no, that moment has passed. And these guys are like, we're talking.
Yeah.
These are the Magic players that go out and they buy a booster box for $300, and they'll do
Well,
that
they
like
might be kicking themselves, man.
they might be. Yep.
Bull runs change people's minds. It
Yep.
changes temperament, man. They might be like, "Oh, you're earning how much?" Or it's actually, and it's a fun freaking game, too.
It is.
It's really a fun thing with
Oh, man.
really deep strategy. And I don't know. I think people things might start changing.
Well,
You
I
know,
don't.
once things start taking off, once SPL hits like 10 cents,
Yeah.
people might change people's minds in that regard.
I think Pika
But
Dragon is saying 3.7 cents is where it's got to hit. 3.7 cents. That's it. You hit 3.7 cents, and a lot of people are happy. At least he's happy. And I know he's a fairly negative character sometimes on Discord because he's so passionate about the game. So I mean, I hesitate to use the word negative, like he really cares about the game. But I know that he's always like 3.7 cents. If we can get there, then at least I'm happy. So hopefully it gets
Mhm.
there. But
That's not that far.
yeah.
And again, just a couple people coming in. It
Yep.
really doesn't take that much to move the needle for new players. And the fact of the matter is they deliberately did not focus on new players for 2.5 years. I think that was one of the biggest mistakes
Yep.
of the last bear market, was saying, oh, no point in having a new player experience, or no point in focusing on these things until we have all this other stuff. It's like it should have been a constant.
Yep.
The new player experience, coulda, shoulda, woulda, but it should have been done a long time ago, after the servers got fixed
Yeah.
in 2020.
Well, they've been talking about
And
tech. They've been talking about tech
Yeah, tech
modernization for so
modernization.
long, right? It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, getting new players in and just having tutorials and stuff is vital. Hearing, that's the plan, that they're actually doing all these instructional videos and stuff. That was very encouraging to hear, because they need that. And they always said, "Oh, there's no point in doing it now because we'll just have to change it in 6 months." It's like, well, then you change it in 6 months.
Yep.
Keep updating it.
well, I
You
feel like,
need new players always coming in. That's the way this whole ecosystem works. That's the whole business model.
and I feel like
And we're finally in there.
that's kind of like part of the reason why they've held off on their marketing for so long too, right? I know they've always said, well,
Oh yeah.
we don't want to market this game yet when we don't have a new player experience. We're just going to be wasting our advertising dollars, having people show up, be
Mhm.
like, what is this game? And then leave. So, like,
And
with,
that's true.
yeah,
I agree with that. Don't spend money on that if you don't do it. But again, they'll be fixing it. They're righting the ship. It was a mistake to literally say, no, we're not focusing on new players. That you should always, always, always be wanting to bring in new players, bull market, bear market, whatever, just by making it easy and comfortable for new players to come in, and not a million hurdles to jump over. So that's being fixed. I'm really optimistic with the things that they're talking about, and the tutorials that they're talking about, and the that little the education of new players coming in. So we'll see how that all shakes out, but I think it's going to be a good thing
yeah,
moving
man.
forward.
So we've been streaming for 2 hours here at this point in time. I don't want to keep you like forever. I know that everyone like loves talking to us and stuff like that. I'll just kind of like do one last question here before we
Mhm.
kind of head out and do like our little closing and stuff like that. But so future Splinterlands, optimistic?
Oh, absolutely. Six
Me
thumbs
too,
up.
man.
I think
Absolutely.
we're poised
Yes.
to just kick ass,
Yep.
to really freaking kick ass. We've had a long, brutal bear, but things are turning around. They're turning around quick, and I think the game's just the direction I see everything moving is incredibly positive. And
Absolutely.
again, you know what? It's once the bull starts kicking in, that's when people start looking for things. That's when I start coming in. You're seeing people coming back already.
Yeah.
You're seeing more accounts opening up. Even though it's just, a dozen, maybe 2 dozen a day, you're seeing those numbers going up. And yeah, I think we're really gonna freaking blow some minds with this bull market. I think the potential is insane with what this game can achieve.
And with what they're doing too, I mean, I find it's like a field of dreams kind of thing with Kevin Costner. If you build it, they will come. And they're making the game
Yeah.
great, which is going to attract players, which will attract investors. Because you need that. I find you need that combination. You can't just have players. You can't just have investors. You need like a good mix of both of them to really make the economy and the game kind of go round. I feel like they're doing everything
Yeah.
right to both get the players and get the investors. And I mean, once we hit that sweet spot, like we're moving again, man. We're
That's what
moving
it's all
back to the
about.
Chaos Legion
That's what
days,
it's all
back to
about.
maybe not $15 vouchers again, but we're still
Or at
moving
least
our way
it's
back.
that the Gorth Quora balance,
Yeah, the Gorth Core
or
balance. That's
the
right.
investor player
The
balance.
Gorth
That's
Core
where
balance.
that's
Who's
where
the
we got to
investor
be.
and who's the player in that? That's not the answer. No need to
Ooh,
answer. No need to answer. We're
ooh,
gonna make someone.
that's a
Whoever's
tough
the Gorth
question.
is gonna be angry. Whoever's the Gorth is gonna be angry. Uh, well,
That's
Jimmy,
true.
why don't
That's a
you
good
why
one.
don't why
Good
don't we
question.
close off? Tell us a little bit about your amp business, because this is your big thing too, right? Like you do amps. It looks like you do vintage amps and you make new amps as well, right? Well, just give us a bit of a rundown. Tell us
Yeah.
about Jimmy.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, so in a nutshell, musician on the road for like 5 or 6 years, literally living in a van, touring with a band around the country, which was amazing. Learned how to take care of my old amp. Had an old Fender. You have to keep that thing running. It's like a Volkswagen. You got to know how to keep it running, how to fix it on the fly. So after that, I started my own business called Vintage Fender Amp Repair, where I specialize in vintage Fender amplifiers, which are the most common mass-produced amps. That was the first amp to really hit the market in the 40s, and that's what all the professional use up until today. So old tube amps, old tube technology and stuff. Let me grab
Yeah, show us.
a little bit.
It's
I'll
funny.
just show you like the kind of stuff we're looking at. Just like old components, vintage components, hand wired circuit boards
Wow.
like this that I make.
You
So,
made that yourself?
so
That
yeah,
circuit with the.
oh yeah, yeah. This is what I do. Is some of these parts on here are incredibly hard to come by.
Awesome.
Lighting's not that good, but so yeah, so do that. Worked on old Fenders for. I have a website, vintagefenderamprepair.com, where people can buy kits if you want to work on your old amplifier. There's kits with parts and instructions, so you could it's like teaching someone how to change their own oil in the car. It's like, here's how you do it. It's not that hard. You just need the right know-how. So then that evolved into Fat Jimmy amplifiers, where I was, not, looking for stuff you couldn't get out of Fenders, certain sounds, certain performance, and kind of evolved into my own line. And living in the Bay Area and having access to a lot of, some of the best musicians in the world. A lot of the guys from the Grateful Dead, Warren Haynes, John Schofield, Chris Robinson, John Fogerty, all these people who were just like around. Steve Kemmock, you just got. I built this amp that they're really good. They're actually some of the best amps on the market today.
Wow.
And got them in the hands of the right musicians, and word spreads. I don't advertise at all. Everything's word of mouth. And yeah, so now I'm building Fat Jimmy amplifiers. I just finished number 320. There's 320 of them out there in the world.
Awesome.
But
And
a
did
lot
you
of
hand make
high-end.
them all, or do they all have
Oh
your
yeah.
DNA on them, basically?
Yep, yep. Every single one I've made from start to finish. I don't have any employees. I do everything myself. Um, again, people like Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead. He's got like 15. John Fogerty's got 3 of them. From
Oh,
Creedence.
the real,
So
like, the big big time musicians have all got the Fat Jimmys now.
yeah, bass
Awesome,
player from the
man.
Foo Fighters, Nate Mendel. So Foo Fighters got some. They're out there.
That's
It's
incredible. Congrats, man.
yeah,
Like a true entrepreneur making your way with the Fat Jimmy amps. It's crazy.
yeah. Right on,
Talking
Jimmy.
to
I
another
even sold one
celebrity.
for SPS a couple years ago.
What?
I sold an amp for SPS.
You sold an amp for SPS.
Yes.
That-
Yep, it was Travis Wright from the Bad Crypto podcast. He bought a Fat Jimmy with SPS.
Wow. Man. And did the SPS go down after that or up? Was this like when it was low or?
Shitload, man. That was 33 cents SPS. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at it like the Bitcoin pizza.
Yep.
You had to do it to keep things going.
But you know what? That's a story to tell. That's your Bitcoin pizza story. I sold an amp for SPS, and then that's a story. Story to tell.
He got a good deal. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
All right, my man. Well, it's been.
Right on. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, buddy, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad we were able to make this work. I know at first it was like right down to the wire with the technical difficulties, with the like sound feedback, with getting our testing in before we could do it. But I'm so pumped for you to have been able to make it onto the show. We opened those packs. Good job on the legendaries. I'm a little bummed you didn't hit a GFL, but dude, those Quoras.
I know.
Those Quoras.
Kinda bummed.
Like I went.
All
Do
those
I still have that? I still have it. Here we go. Ready? Let's for the Quoras, and here's one for the Gorths. We just gotta throw that in one more time, right, man? One more sad oboe for the trip. But
For the Gorth.
yeah, buddy. But Jimmy, totally appreciate you being on the show, man. Now that we know how to do this, maybe we can make this a recurring thing and have Jimmy show up
Anytime,
a few
man.
times, So
Anytime. Love talking Splinterlands and love your show and
thanks, buddy.
Hanging out and all that
Yeah,
stuff,
man.
man.
I'm
Really
just
appreciate you having me
I'm
on
a small-time, non-monetized streamer kind of guy, but what can I say? I love to do it. I love Splinterlands, so that's why I do it. I do it because I love Splinterlands, and it's a lot of fun
Same.
for me.
Yeah.
So, cool.
Same here. Yeah.
All right. Well, to
Right
everyone,
on.
in the audience, thanks so much for joining us here. To Fat Jimmy, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm gonna provide links to Fat Jimmy. Just send me in Discord all of the links to your wife's artwork and to your amps and stuff like that. I'll post all that into the YouTube videos that I put up as well about this.
Sure.
We'll make sure that
Let me
we
drop the,
get that out there.
Let me drop fatjimmyamps.com there.
Yeah. And like I said, send it to me in Discord too, because I'll straight up put it onto the YouTube videos as well that I pop out. Because I mean, buddy, you've been a content machine. Let's face it. I love these convos that we've had. So I'll put these up there. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks for all of you guys for joining us. It's I the Size signing off, and Jimmy, give us your final words.
Jimmy.
Love it, my man. Until next time, everyone. We'll see you around Pretoria. Take care, my friends. Peace.
Jimmy.